And welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. We had a full panel today. How's it going, gentlemen?
I'm sad. A little depressed.
Feeling a little older.
Feeling a little old.
That's right. You had your birthday. Happy birthday, man.
Yeah, it's it was a good day. We won. I can't say the same thing for Texas.
No, you cannot. That's why I'm depressed.
But the Cowboys didn't lose.
No, but Houston, the Texans lost. They're lucky the Cowboys didn't even play because they probably would have lost too. Everybody lost in Texas. Texas was on a losing streak.
Besides Texas A&M.
They're like Oklahoma.
Like A&M is a solid team. Like I actually don't know why they got as much hate before the season started. It's a good team. Like I thought they were going to be a playoff team this year.
Well, they lost the first game of the year and they haven't lost since. They're 5-1 or 6-1 now. Like they've actually played well since their week 1 debacle. Whoever they got crushed by, I think it was Notre Dame that kicked the crap out of them.
It was Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but before the season, I was like, that's going to be a playoff team. I mean, they got a lot of nice pieces. I didn't expect them to get smoked week 1, but
yeah,
we're going to.
They probably didn't either. They probably didn't.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think they're the only team in the SEC right now that's undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas.
Let me ask about this since you guys. I thought you guys were going to bring it right on up, and you didn't. What happened, Texas?
And
That's what happened. They disappeared.
He's like, deuces, yo.
He didn't want to hear it. What happened? What happened with Texas? They
just played bad. Got some morning beers here.
If you look at that game, Georgia did to Texas what Alabama did to Georgia for 3 quarters. They just came out like with their hair on fire, sent the message on both sides of the ball. The only difference was Georgia, for the most part, was able to respond and battle back. Texas couldn't battle back because neither quarterback could do shit.
Okay. It's funny, this happy birthday, when I just scanned across it initially, I thought he just said happy 90th birthday.
That's what I thought he said too. It's like, damn, he looks good for 90.
Yeah, I look real good for 90. It's like I thought the bags under my eyes are definitely not that big.
But happy birthday to your mom, Joe. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I it's always funny on your birthday. You find out everybody else who's got a birthday.
Yeah, of course.
So it was there was a lot of people that had birthdays. Yeah, there was one guy who turned 30 years old, and I walk up on him and he's got like this birthday sash on and the little there's a whole bunch of guys and they got him wearing the crown and the sash and everything. And I'm like, hey, it's my birthday too. And I can imagine that this guy was probably not a fan of me. Like he's an Eagles fan and he knows who I am, but he wasn't as excited to be able to share a birthday with me.
He's like, great.
It's kind of how it was.
That's awesome. So I mean, before we get into like actual sports, what was the deal with the shoulder pads? Why did they make you take them off? What was the thing with that?
So they said that there was some type of thing that happened at one of the last events. And because I did get further clarification, I went up to the guard who said, yeah, no shoulder pads anymore. And so I pled my case, but I'm done trying to fight to get into stadiums. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, you're going to do this rule. I'm going to blast you for it. You know what I mean? That's just all I'm going to do. Because you know who I am now. I mean, the guy even said, yeah, know who you are. No, you've been in here all this time. No. Okay. What am I going to do? Am I going to call the president and say, hey, give me permission? No, I'm not going to do that. I take the shoulder pads off. It was only a minor inconvenience. They did have something right there where all I had to do was check it, and they gave me a ticket. I didn't have to pay for it or nothing.
That's cool. They didn't make you pay for it or anything.
I mean, so it was
that's pretty cool.
And that was that. You know what I mean? So it was like it was an inconvenience because I had to like me moving anywhere at the end of a game is really hard to do.
Sure.
So trying to get over there before they close, because I don't need them to close on me and then me not have my shoulder pads.
Well, not
But-
just that. I imagine pulling them off is a problem too, because you're trying not to mess up the makeup.
I don't care at that point. The makeup was messed up. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
at this
fair
point,
enough.
now what you're seeing is a rendition of the Philly Sports Guy, but they know who I am.
Yeah,
You know
of
what I
course.
mean? Those things like that. It's like I could fight it, or I could just abide by the rules. So I just abide by the rules, and then I went up to him and asked him, I'm like, so when did this occur? You know, like, hey, listen, now I did what you asked me to. When did this occur? Who am I needing to talk to now? Is this going to be completely the plan? Because if that's the case, I want to make sure that I get clearance beforehand. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like there's always somebody who's going to tell me yes, because I'm not a disruption, and I'm not somebody who's going to cause any issues. So I have to imagine that I wasn't going to get there in the next 45 minutes at that moment in time. So now I have to just do it ahead of time. You know, it's like, okay, I'm coming up there as I come up here for every game that the Eagles are playing here. You know, I'm going to be wearing shoulder pads. Am I okay? Can I get a little slip of paper that says I'm cleared of all wrongdoing? I guess they can do the normal search. I mean, because they do a full search on me anyways.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's.
I would imagine somebody hid something in it or something dumb.
From what I understand,
like that, you
I
know?
may have heard it was like a concert, and you know, somebody was maybe wearing shoulder pads in like a mosh pit area.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I think it sounded to me like when he was telling the story, and this is coming from a guy who's probably about 55 years old, security, and he don't want to hear nothing. He really don't want to answer my question either. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But he's given me the little bit of respect because I listened to him. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of like trying to get the story out of him was like definitely pulling teeth. But it was what it was. You know what I mean? It was weird and a pain in the ass.
Sure.
But
there's always that one person that messes it up for everybody. I mean, that seems to always be the case. That's why they put rules in, right?
That's what happened at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's just life in general, right?
Yeah,
There's a couple of assholes that mess it up for everyone.
So, and now that listen, I'm not going to cause an issue. I'm going to plead my case. Anyway. I'm going to plead my case. I'm sober. You know what I mean? I'm not drunk when I do these and plead the case. So it's not like you're going to be like, you're too intoxicated now to come in. Like, so it's like, I'm like pleading my case. Like, hey, I wear this every time I'm here. Every time I wear the exact same thing. Unless it's the Flyers are playing. You know, it's like, and I feel like I'm going to get more of this now because they know who I am. They showed me on TV anyways.
Sure.
You know, it's like, so there, and they got me at a really funny moment because I'm sitting there and I'm taking a selfie with a bunch of people behind me and I got a big smile on my face. So it looks like I could be holding up a trophy. Like that's one of the things that would actually look really cool if I put a Lombardi trophy in my hand.
Yeah.
And like that, if it was for something like that. But again, it is what it is. I'm not gonna create an issue.
Get out there, play some D-line.
That's what they said. That I should be playing defensive line out there.
That is hilarious.
I mean, I guess I look that big.
I mean, there's some teams that could use any help for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was with 3 girls. Let's see. Here's Chris, outing me to everybody. Keep your mouth shut, Chris.
Right. And of course, talking about some actual sports, might as well head it off. You have Deshaun Watson rupturing an Achilles, done for the year. The fans were cheering, so that's messed up on its face. But at the same time, do the Browns get better now? Do the Browns actually start winning games now that Deshaun's hurt?
I mean, after Deshaun Watson went down, they went with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who looked like complete dog shit. And then they went with Jameis Winston in the fourth quarter, and they actually moved the ball and scored a touchdown.
That's what. Why did they go with Jameis the first time? Why,
yeah, I didn't understand that. So I think right now they stick with Jameis Winston just because the team actually moved the ball in the fourth quarter with Jameis Winston scored.
I mean, I think that was them just trying to be like, look, Deshaun wasn't that bad.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson is worse, but oh shit, we still have Jameis Winston. Yeah. He can do a little bit of something.
Hey, I was just happy to see Nick Chubb back on the field, man. He got me good 10 points. Wasn't bad. I was just glad to see Nick back. You know, I'm curious to see what he does next game.
Them cheering him getting carted off is a little rough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not exactly the best human ever either. So, like, it's not okay to do that, but you can understand some of the frustration by the fan base.
I mean, if he would have been playing the way he did when he was with Houston, nobody's going to cheer that situation. It's the fact that he's been so horrifically bad since he's taken over. Basically, I'm not counting his first year in Cleveland because he missed 10 games.
If he played exactly how he's played, but didn't have all the off the field craziness, they probably also wouldn't cheer.
Yeah, but like
you can be bad.
Yeah,
you just can't also be a jerk.
Yeah, like I'm not counting his first season in Cleveland because he was suspended the first 10 games. And he only played 6. But realistically, like last year from week 1 through week 7 this year, he's been terrible. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL over that 20-25 game stretch. So of course they're going to cheer when one of your worst offensive players gets benched or gets hurt.
Well, that's the thing is even if you were the worst, right? Just god awful out there and you get injured, fans aren't really they're not gonna cheer. They're certainly not gonna boo you as you're getting carted off, right? I mean, they were just short of throwing stuff at him. And maybe someone did and they just didn't get it on camera. I don't know. But the thing is all of that is because of all the off the field stuff, because we've seen plenty of bad players get hurt and people are like, we're not sad that you're not on the field anymore, but we're sad you got hurt, right? Like you don't want to see that happen. Whereas in this scenario, because of all the off the field stuff and he's just kind of a douche, that's where people are allegedly a douche. Don't sue the show.
I think it's even more so than that. I mean,
that's where those cheers and stuff come from.
I think it's the fact that he walked off the field and quit the team, and
that's the one.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's what I mean. Like, there's so much.
Like, I think the off the field issues it is what it is with the off the field issues. Like, yes, that happened in the past, and it's going to haunt him for the rest of his NFL career. And granted, there are there's new allegations against him, which nothing has come from that yet. So until something actually comes out of that, you can't really say he did it. But I think more of the Cleveland fans are just upset with him, basically saying, when they wanted him to run more option reads, and he basically said, I'm not a running back and a quarterback, and he's refusing to run the option reads. And then the next week, he basically walks off the field and quits on the team in the middle of a play. I think that's kind of where Cleveland's like, you know what? F off, you're terrible. Yeah.
Well, and Rob, you might be right here. Like, he's so far removed from good football. He's been injured every year. It's $230 million guaranteed no matter how it goes down. This may be the last time you see him.
In Cleveland, I think it will be in Cleveland. I think he'll sign somewhere else because someone else could sign him for a veteran's minimum because Cleveland's still going to have to pay him for.
Or did he just, is he just? I mean, it's not a full tear, is it? Like all the way.
No, it's a full tear. He's done.
Oh yeah, you watched the calf muscle recoil.
Yeah,
like
he
tore that thing in half.
Yeah,
and like for this situation, even if Cleveland gets rid of him, I could see a team like, you throw Carolina out there for example because they're pathetic. I could see a team like
No, but like literally, why would you do that? Carolina is the worst team in the league.
Yeah,
they have the worst quarterback situation. Bryce Young still has better numbers.
Okay, we'll do even if they bring him in as a backup though. Like they would only have to pay him a veteran's minimum at like $2 million, if that, because Cleveland's still going to owe him 40 whatever million a year.
He's playing in the XFL.
Yeah, I think I think if he makes it back to being a starting quarterback in NFL, if that was even a possibility, he would have to work his way back up the ranks again. So if he had, like you said, XFL, CFL, even as maybe a backup or something, and then try to regain. I mean, he's got to do something of that nature, right?
Yeah. No, there's no way that another team wants to pick this up because the numbers don't support it, and he still comes with all the off the field baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's taking that flyer. Besides, it's ruptured today, right? Which means he's going to go in for surgery next week, probably, right?
Thursday.
It's going to be right away.
Thursday. They said he's scheduled Thursday.
Well, sorry, I meant this week.
They said Thursday's when his surgery is.
So, but you're a full year away, right? So you're halfway through next season before you're really going to be eligible.
Unless you're Kirk Cousins, who got hurt in week 8 and was ready in week 1.
Yeah, I don't see Deshaun having the same work ethic.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah,
I think he just hangs out in his house all day. He's like, oh shit, 6 months in, do I feel like lifting a weight today? No, I think
don't know. Hey, maybe
I'll be honest though. Do you think that those guys talk to each other? I mean, they're both NFL quarterbacks.
I don't. Yeah. I think a lot of the NFL tries to distance themselves from Deshaun Watson.
So
but he's still a quarterback, and he's still got a same situation that both Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, along with other numerous quarterbacks, have had.
Yes.
Do you think that they have that conversation?
I think Cousins might. Aaron Rodgers, no way in hell, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't talk to anybody. I think Cousins would be willing to have that conversation.
Listen, I hear Aaron Rodgers talk to Pat McAfee every week.
Okay, well, that's Pat McAfee. I'm talking like regular players, though. Like everyone's even said that Aaron Rodgers is an asshole.
I think. Listen, now you got two assholes talking to each other. I can imagine that conversation being great.
I think Cousins would be more than willing to help, just because the difference between Rodgers and Cousins and Watson basically tore it at the same time, the midway point of the season. So Cousins kind of knows like what you have to go through to be ready by week 1 when you tear it in week 8, as opposed to Aaron Rodgers tore it in week 1. A year later, you're looking at week 1 and coming back. So I think Cousins would be able to give better.
I'm telling you, I know what Cousins did. Yeah. They got the repair. He started the rehab. He went down to Costa Rica. He started to get the stem cell shots in there all the friggin' time.
Yeah.
And then started doing his rehab down there, because you don't hear about where he's doing his rehab or how he's doing his rehab, because he's out for the year. So it doesn't matter how he gets back as long as he gets back.
That's why I think Cousins would have better advice to give Watson, basically saying, this is what I did to come back in week 1. If you want to come back before a year, this is what you need to do. Like, this is what you got to do. This is where you got to go.
Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has got a place down there. He probably borrowed the place when Kirk Cousins went there. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of, I got to imagine that. Listen, it's no secret. It's no secret. You know what I mean? That's what you're doing now. Like, you want to get better. You're going to go get the stem cells, and you're going to get everything better. And you know what? It's amazing how quickly you can recover when you use everything that's available to you.
Yeah, especially when money is not a hurdle, right? Like,
correct.
You can go pay for whatever it is you want to do. And obviously he's not hurting for cash. Cousins wasn't hurting for cash. Rodgers not hurting for cash, right? Like their rehab is going to be far and away better than anything the rest of us could do. But I mean, publicly, do they have that conversation? Maybe not. Behind closed doors? Absolutely. Absolutely they do.
Bo, check the group.
Well, I take that back. They only do if Deshaun actually wants to come back.
Bo, check your group chat once in the text. Look at what I sent you. I forgot to send this to you on Friday. I forgot to send you this on Friday because I did want to talk about it if it's accurate.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that.
That was right after the Thursday night game where they got pummeled.
Yeah, no. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that. Yeah, I mean, he might need a little more than a massage, but there's no doubt that he's going to have one.
Lots of them over the next year.
I love it if they brought a male masseuse in there. He's like, oh, damn.
I don't know if he cares.
He may not. You're right. He may not care.
Those ones just didn't come forward.
Hey, you heard Amari Cooper say it one time. The moment he got traded there from Dallas, he goes, How do you follow somebody who oils up his booty hole?
Yeah, that's right.
He said that out loud in comments about his
Is-
quarterback.
has he been to some Diddy parties? Is that what's going on?
I maybe that's the thing. He got some Diddy in him.
Got some fans that saw you on TV too.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that everybody loves seeing me on TV. You know what I mean? It really is fun. I didn't expect to wind up on TV. It was something that I kind of did yesterday, where it was something I don't ever do, and the fact that I didn't have shoulder pads on made it a lot easier to kind of do it. But I started up where my ticket and where my first ticket was, and what I normally do is, so people wonder how I wind up down low, and it's because people ask to take pictures with me and there happens to be an open seat, and that's just the way it works. It's I get a little bit of special dispensation because of all the pictures that I take. You know what I mean? I take a lot of pictures, and I am so I make myself to put myself in that position. So but yesterday I started all the way up at the 300 level, which is normally where I get my seat at. And so, and I did it. It was like, here I am. And then I was like down in the second level at the first spot where people said, here I am. And then wound up on the 40-yard line. Because it was just, Santa. I got gifted by Santa. That's why everybody saw Santa and, my buddy Chris, who looks like Jim McMahon, on there. So I got gifted by Santa because there was an open seat next to him. You know what I mean? I wound up being over there. So, and that's how I wound up that low. And the security guards were friendly enough to allow people to take pictures for a minute, but it was getting too much. So I like it when the security guards are blocking people. They're like, yo, you got to wait till after the game. It's like, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Because now not only do I get to watch the game, but so does everybody behind me get to continue
Yeah, for
watching.
sure.
And there were some
Yeah.
Giants fans who weren't going to leave. You know what I mean? They just, and all the other Giants fans left. They weren't going to leave. They were going to sit there and watch, and maybe just to try to spite me. They're like, hey, I'm watching this game here. I was okay with that. Yeah, let's watch this debacle for you guys.
To be fair, like when I go to a game, I don't leave early, right? Tickets are expensive enough. I'm going to watch to the last second.
Yeah.
Besides, like we've all watched teams pull off crazy comebacks. For the Seahawks, it was the NFC Championship game where they're down, 3 scores with 4 minutes to go and end up winning in overtime. I mean,
well, in MetLife Stadium,
it's not often, but it happens.
In MetLife Stadium and in the old Giant Stadium, it happened all the time for the Eagles, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mike Vick comeback, they scored. And I think that was even at the Link. It might not have even been in MetLife, but they scored and went up 31-7. Imagine all the people that have 7 minutes and 42 seconds left in the game. How many people are leaving, walking out the door? You know what I mean? Next thing you know, we score a touchdown. Next thing we get an onside kick and score a touchdown. And then make that punt and score a touchdown. And now all of a sudden we're tied up, at 31. And then they punt the ball and we run it back for a touchdown to end the game.
The Deshaun Jackson punt return?
Yeah, that's
that
miracle. That's the
yeah,
miracle
that
of
was at
MetLife too, or miracle of the Meadowlands. It was still Meadowlands back then too. So
Joe,
it's not
I
crazy.
don't,
It's
I don't
not
know why
crazy.
you wouldn't want him benched. Like the game was out of hand. There's no reason to have him out there. That happens across the league. So I mean
that was more protecting him.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
the question
He had
is,
gotten
do you go back
sacked
to him?
7 times at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Now
I mean,
the question
this
is, do
is
you go
something
back to him?
that should have happened a couple of times last year that ended up with him getting hurt because they just left him out there to die. I mean, he had like 3 different games last year where he had double-digit sacks against him.
Well, now the question is, do you go back to him next week? Because I think the Giants are at Pittsburgh next week. Do you go back to him next week with that?
You have to. So you have to start with. You have to. Because obviously he's going to give you the best chance of winning, and you're not going to not play him because he's going to get killed. You actually have to play him because he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Take your beating. Obviously. I like yesterday had nothing to do with Daniel Jones.
No, it was the offensive line just playing so pathetically bad.
Well, everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt.
Yeah.
So it's like literally they were not able to really do anything at all. And
Well, and it's not like Drew Lock came in and lit it up, right? He goes 3 for 8, right? With 6 yards. So that doesn't exactly say, hey, DJ loses his job. That being said, DJ's terrible. So, I mean, let's not pretend like he's amazing. Do I think he could potentially lose his job this year? Sure. But it's not like he jumped on the field and was lighting it up. I mean, we saw we saw your earlier post there, Chris, too. There was a fan that ran on that had a political thing. They didn't light her up the way they do the dudes, where they go and just like flatten the guy. Like they went and just kind of hugged her and picked her up. I mean,
did she look like Stormy Daniels? Is that why you're saying that?
Kind of, yeah.
Did she had big boobs?
Yeah, that's why he keeps posting it.
Okay.
we don't have
I
the
didn't
video.
see it.
Chris. We don't have the video. Yeah, I didn't see it in real time. I saw it after the fact, but
yeah, those are things that we always want to post. Yeah, girls with big.
She had political
girls with politically things to say.
That's right.
Are always welcome. Just to endear us more to the female population of the show.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, did Fields get screwed? No, he didn't play great. Like the defense won him a lot of those games. In fact, the defense scored. So, I mean, like I don't know what you were expecting out of Fields. You knew what he was. Obviously, the showing last night helped Russ. He was gifted some really great field position a couple of times. That being said, it's their first game with 30 points this year. So I would say
a game against a good Jets defense too.
Yeah. So, I mean, like at the end of the day, you're looking at a team that struggled to put up 20, put up 30 against a solid defense. Yeah, I would say he gets.
Yeah, but game. Stop. I had to take a look at it just to make sure I wasn't friggin' out of my mind.
No, he didn't have a great day by any means, but
16 for 29, 264, and 2 touchdowns. I understand he didn't turn the ball over like Aaron Rodgers did twice to give them short fields to give him those touchdowns. That. So I feel like that's that the offense actually hindered.
I'm just saying he was good enough to get a start next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I mean, he was throwing 50%. Like he wasn't exactly killing it out there, and he had a couple of scores, sure. But I mean, one of the times the ball was turned over on the 2. I should hope you can score there, but he didn't turn the ball over. Still had 250 yards roughly, but 50% completion rate isn't exactly like awesome to me. And he looked terrible. Like there were throws that were wildly underthrown. Even behind the line of scrimmage, there were some.
Right. Yeah, I watched a couple of those.
So I mean,
it was just like he threw it at his feet. Though I actually thought he was ending the play. Like I thought, I watched a couple of those throws that you were talking about that seemed a little off and odd, and like he was throwing it at the guy's feet so that he couldn't catch it, so he just ended the play. It was there were a couple of those,
but there were a couple, like both of the ones you're talking about. I actually think were to the flat to the right. There was one to the left that he just didn't get anything on the ball. Like the guy was going to be able to go up the field from there, and the thing was 5 yards short in the dirt. So I mean, like he definitely had moments where he wasn't crisp. Now, obviously, he hasn't played football all year either. So This is his first game of the season. You don't expect him to be at top level. Whatever that looks like for Russ today. But at the same time, he far outperformed anything Fields has been able to do. He didn't have the running element that Fields has, But I mean, ultimately, you don't want to have to rely on your quarterback running for his life for yards anyway. You want him to be able to effectively run your offense. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he realistically earns another start. And I thought that he was going to be a better quarterback than Fields, right? But again, we're like, how low are we setting the bar here? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I think of is this a throwaway year for the Jets? Are they just making this a throwaway year now?
I think it's going to have to now that they fell three games behind the Bills.
I think you have to kind of figure it out though, because you're looking at guys that have short contracts. I mean, I don't know how many times you can run this back. Rodgers hasn't looked great. I don't think he necessarily gets better as you go. You're looking at the end of some contracts. You got Riddick who, redoes his deal. It's basically a 1-year deal now. So you only have him this year. So then you have some questions moving forward on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I don't know if you can just out and out throw it away. I think the next few games are crucial though.
I mean, they just brought in Devontae Adams, and he only gets 3 catches for 30 yards. I mean, I thought he'd get at least a little bit more
that's
than
common. That's common. He got traded on Monday. He's playing on Sunday. I know that him and Aaron played together, but this isn't backyard ball. You know what I mean?
I understand that, but I mean, they still have some sort of chemistry together. I kind of expected maybe a little bit more targets. But
their offensive line isn't strong enough to be able to handle the rush of the Steelers.
Well, that's true.
And the Steelers are one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like they were going to go off on the Steelers. How you beat the Steelers because they can't get the ball down the field. I mean, the only reason the Jets lose is because they turn the ball over twice on their side of the field.
Right.
Otherwise, this is a wildly different game anyway.
I got to imagine that George Pickens, he's got to be frustrated. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he looks for, next, whenever his contract is up, if he doesn't try to get out of there.
I mean, he had a good day.
But I'm just saying overall, though. I mean, just the amount of time he's been there.
I think he's excited about Russell Wilson getting the start because he at least pushes the field at least a little bit.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Pickens is probably like, hey, there's somebody that can actually throw me the ball.
You know what cracks me up? It's like, and you're not going to like this one there, stat guy, but when you're down by so much, and then out of nowhere you take the lead with still time left on the clock, damn right well you're going to lose that game.
Well, the thing with the Detroit game yesterday, and this is why I picked Detroit to make it to the Super Bowl in the NFC this year, is because they are the one team that can handle the blitz better than anybody else. And you saw that with Jared Goff yesterday. When Minnesota blitzed him, he literally tore them apart. There's really 2 plays that honestly cost Minnesota the game yesterday late. So they get the fumble return for a touchdown to go up 29-28. Everyone knew they were going to go for 2 points at that situation to make it a 3-point game to force the Lions to basically get a touchdown to win or a field goal to tie. And I had no problem going for 2 because ultimately that's what they needed. But the 2-point play, the play call on that was absolutely freaking atrocious. Like, you literally forced the ball into Jordan Addison, who was barely into the end zone, where if he would have caught it, he may have not even been in the end zone at that point anyways. Like, you need to at least get a little bit more motion to get somebody freed up in the end zone to have a better shot at that, or even just try to hand it off to Aaron Jones, who had a good game. But then that one series after we stopped Detroit, all we had to do was go and get 1 first down to basically force Detroit to use all their timeouts. And we got 6 yards on 2 carries, 3rd down and 4. I had no problem with Minnesota trying to pass for the first down. But why are we throwing it 20 yards downfield when all we needed was a 5-yard check down? And when we threw it 20 yards downfield, we overthrew Jefferson, had to punt, and then Detroit basically ran it right, basically just drove it down the field and ended the game. Those are the 2 plays that ultimately.
Was Jefferson open?
No, he had a guy in front of him. Well, is he ever not open?
Well,
but
there you go.
He had a guy.
Interestingly enough, so as I'm looking at the stats, Jefferson was 7 receptions out of 8 targets. So that was the only one he missed.
That was the only one he missed. I mean, and it wasn't that he missed it. It's he didn't have a chance to make the play. Like he had a guy in front of him, he had a guy behind him, and Darnold overthrew him by like 5 or 6 yards. So Jefferson didn't even have a shot to even get a hand on it. Like he just airmailed him completely. And I'm just like, seriously? Like all we needed was I have no problem if you're going to go to him in that situation, but give the guy a chance to catch it.
I mean,
tell you,
every
it's
quarterback
amazing.
airmails.
It's amazing how similar the stats look in this game.
Well, that's what I said. Like to me, watching, I don't know
Yeah.
how much of that game either one of you guys watched, but
None.
watching that game yesterday, I'm not afraid to say those are the two best teams in the NFC right now. Like those two teams exchanged blows left and right. Minnesota went up 10-0 like 5 minutes into the game. Then Detroit scores 21 straight. Minnesota makes it 21-17. Detroit goes up 28-17. Minnesota goes and scores the first 12 points of the fourth quarter and had the lead with about a minute left, and Detroit ends up getting that field goal with 15 seconds left. Like those two teams exchange blows left and right the entire game.
I felt that Jahmyr Gibbs had a really good game. I mean, obviously with Montgomery, but man,
Well,
what
that's
2 scores, 150 yards. I mean,
That's
Wow.
ultimately why I think Detroit was able to handle Minnesota's blitz
Right.
as well as they were. It's because Gibbs was able to run against that blitz. And when he started to get the yards he did off of that blitz, it put Minnesota in more one-on-one coverage in the secondary. And Jared Goff started the game 18 of 18 2 weeks ago, starts the game 16 of 16 yesterday against Minnesota before an incompletion and against the blitz. I think they said he was like 18 of 19 passing against the blitz yesterday. So like Minnesota, like I love Brian Flores. I love the aggressiveness he plays with because that blitz gives a lot of quarterback problems. But if you have a quarterback just carving you up the way Jared Goff did when you're blitzing, you got to get out of your aggressive nature a little bit and start only using a 3-4 man blitz as opposed to all these all-out blitzes.
I mean, it's not like you're talking like the Vikings got smoked in this game. Like what they were doing was working.
Honestly, but like is what Pig said about the stats, like yes, the stats are really close, but that game is not as close as what that final score indicated. Minnesota's first touchdown of the game. Detroit faked a punt on their own 33-yard line and got stuffed. One play later, Minnesota went up 7-0. And then Minnesota had a fumble that they returned for a touchdown that was like a 34-yard return. So 14 of their 29 points, they got off of turnovers in Detroit's own end. Outside of that, Minnesota really only had one good drive in the entire game, and that was the first drive of the second half that they got a touchdown. They weren't able really to move the ball as much as the stats show that they did just because 2 of their touchdowns came on short fields that they just capitalized on. Other than that, Detroit just gutted them the whole game.
I mean, so that's not how numbers work, though. So, like, I understand that's where their points came from. But when you look at the yardage totals, I mean, they're within less than 10 yards of each other.
I know.
So, like,
You look at everything. It's a 3-yard difference on either side.
That's why
and all the way down. They each got a turnover.
Yeah.
One had a fumble. One had an interception. They also go down to a matter of time of possession is only. I think it's 29-31. So
and that's why it's funny because I like watching that game, like looking at the numbers, you see how close it is. But when you actually watch that game, you are actually surprised how close the numbers were because it realistically seemed like Detroit dominated that game start to finish. But then you look at the numbers and it's just like, holy shit,
it's because your scores came where they did. They came on the defense. So your guys ended up on the field a little bit more, but that just means you had drives that didn't end with points necessarily, but they were still sustained drives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it when the numbers are wildly different and the score is close. That's where I'm like, okay, yeah, the score should have been different than it is. But in this case, I mean, this is about as balanced a game as you can get.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game. The only downfall that I have from it, just being a Vikings fan, is it was very sloppy. Like Minnesota, I think is like the second or third fewest penalized team in the NFL, and they had like 6 or 7 first half penalties. Like it was a very sloppy game for them for the most part.
Both teams had 8 penalties for about 50 yards.
Yeah, and they were all like false start penalties or holding penalties. Like I think there was one defensive penalty on Detroit for illegal contact, but every other penalty was either false starts or holding. Like it was very sloppy on the offensive line for like the first time all season for both sides. Because Detroit only had 4 offensive line penalties all year heading into this game, and they had 6 yesterday.
And Stat Guy burying his team is brought to you in part by True Fusion Gym. Right here in the Pacific Northwest. If you use the QR code on the screen, get a free 5-day pass at any of the 3 locations, whether it's Bellevue, Ballard, or University Village. Pilates, boot camp, yoga, bar, hot rooms, and more. Find your edge at True Fusion Gym. And of course, if you are into sports betting, you can bet right alongside us here at Coast to Coast by using the QR code on the screen. If it loads ever, there we go. Get 125% of your first 3 deposits. And of course, there is a 10% bet guarantee. Again, use the QR code on the screen. All right. And Joe, you're right. The Jets team is overrated. I don't know that anybody on this panel really thought that they were a front runner anyway. I know I didn't. I thought if they were getting in, they were a wild card at best. So
I have it somewhere. I have it written down somewhere what we all guessed or what we all thought of this. So I'll find it here in a minute.
Yeah, I think we pretty much all had them as wild cards.
Yes, we may have all put them in there as wild cards, or that they didn't make it at all.
Exactly. Yeah, so. I mean, there was not a lot of belief in the Jets on this particular panel.
Yeah. I mean, that team is just so much turmoil from their head coach to, I mean, obviously the firing of Salah, and then they're all over the place. There's like no consistency to really get a good battle rhythm going to even get out of the hole that you're in.
Yeah, I mean, so who do you think Rodgers is trying to get fired this week?
Oh, man.
We can do this every Monday, right? Just, who's trying to get fired?
Trying to get himself fired this week?
I mean, it was funny because I was watching some stuff earlier, and people were losing their minds about his his post-game presser where he was talking about we need to get the running game going, and they're like, oh, now he's trying to get Breece Hall out of there, which is hilarious.
They're trying to get the O-line coach fired.
I mean, that would make more sense, but yeah, no, like some of them were like, oh yeah, he's trying to get Breece out of here. It's like, I don't know why you would do that because he's one of the more dynamic guys on this team.
Right.
But, now they're just looking for anything to bury him under. And it's like, they had 54 total yards rushing. He's not wrong. Yeah. Like they need to figure out how to run the ball. I mean, I get that now people are just looking for any reason for Rodgers to be, kind of a scumbag, but like in this case, they really did not have any running game to speak of.
Hey, how much longer do you think it's going to be before Rodgers winds up on the Minnesota Vikings? I'm just wondering.
He's not going
doing the full Brett Favre action.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it's almost like it's a full Brett. Because when Brett went to New York, Brett wasn't successful really in New York, and then he wound up, going to the Vikings.
So he got hurt. He actually played before he got hurt.
He did get hurt. That's true.
Well, and he played well, something Aaron Rodgers has not done yet.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to Minnesota and has one of the best years of his entire career. And outside of being a Brett Favre moment where he just can't throw a ball away, that team may win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, that was a fantastic Vikings team. But Favre had to be Favre and be like, you know what? I could throw this away. I could just run out of bounds, but I'm going to chuck it across my body into the teeth of the defense. And what do you know? That stuff gets picked off. Who knew?
Oh, it's great.
We're just here making stat guys sad. That is really the theme of the day today.
That doesn't even make me sad. That's just the one game that it hurts, but it doesn't hurt at the same time just because the Saints ultimately had to cheat to win that game. Because if you look at the total yardage in that game, and this is where kind of stats go out the window for that game, the Saints had 222 yards of offense in that game. Minnesota had 474. Minnesota had the ball for 40 minutes in that game. The Saints had the ball for 20. The difference obviously was Minnesota had more turnovers than New Orleans, which ultimately makes a big difference. But then just the shots that the Saints were taking. Percy Harvin left the game injured for a shot to the knee. Adrian Peterson left the game for 2 quarters because of a shot to the knee. Brett Favre gets the high-low hits the entire game and ultimately breaks his ankle in the 4th quarter and tries to finish the game on a broken ankle.
I just don't have
This
enough
is
tinfoil
where-
in this room.
This is where
Yeah, no, but that's like there's a lot of there's like everyone like I don't like the Green Bay Packers, and there's no secret that I don't like the Green Bay Packers, I don't like the Patriots, and I don't like certain teams in the NFL. But the one team that I would refuse to root for under any circumstance is the New Orleans Saints because of that season alone.
For anybody watching, they'd be pretty sure that you don't like the Vikings either.
No, because like I'm not a normal Viking fan. Like I will tell it how it is and how I see it. Like all these Viking fans yesterday were saying like, "Oh, the ref cost us the game," or "Oh, we lost the game because of this, this, and this." It's like, no, we lost the game because we couldn't stop Detroit with less than 3 minutes to go, and we had two poorly executed situations in the game that ultimately cost us 2 points to put us up by 3, and a chance to milk the clock.
The ones that are saying we lost because this, and this are probably right because they're citing 3 different things that were the problem.
No, because they were saying something about there was no defensive pass interference called on Justin Jefferson in the fourth quarter, and there was not even a situation where there should have been pass interference called because he was never really being touched by anybody just because Minnesota was spreading the ball out the entire second half. Like, I'm not afraid to, like, crucify my team when they should be crucified.
we didn't lose. We were just down when the time was up.
Yeah, that's how some of these that's how a lot of these Viking fans are acting today. They're like, "Oh, we didn't lose. We just didn't have enough time to put ourselves in field goal range." I'm like, "Okay, then how did you not lose?" Like,
Yeah,
That's
still
right.
lost
If the
the
game
game.
was 2 hours, we might have won.
Like, I don't like that's why like it's been annoying today for a lot of the Viking fans and just all the complaining that they had. I sit there, I'm like, Detroit is a
Oh,
Detroit is
we
a super.
go.
No, because Jay doesn't ever like the thing with Jay when it comes to the Cowboys. Even when the Cowboys got killed like they did against Detroit, Jay always tries to find a silver lining, which is good. Like you always want to find a silver lining, even when you lose a game. Like if your team loses like 40-0, but you have a rookie play for the first time and the rookie ended up with like 5 catches for like 110 yards. Like that's a silver lining to take away from that game because the rookie played well. But at some point, you just got to stop sugarcoating shit and just put everything into perspective. The team.
You would think that you guys are 1-5 based on the way you're talking about them.
Wait till you see what happens when they lose a game that they shouldn't lose. Like if they go and lose to the Titans in 2 weeks, or if they go and lose to the Colts in 2 weeks, that's when you'll actually hear me bash my team into the ground. But they lost to a Super Bowl contending team that outplayed them, and ultimately they beat Minnesota at their own game. They were able to beat Minnesota on the blitz when usually the blitz is what beats other people.
I just want to say, Jay
I like the
sees
hand
no
raise.
silver lining right now. My Cowboys until ownership changes. I just want y'all to know that when ownership changes,
No, what are you
I might
talking
see a
about?
silver lining.
There is one. You guys
No,
didn't
you
You
lose.
didn't lose this week, Jay.
Stop it.
You have a silver lining. You didn't lose this week. You didn't drop it all in the standings. You stayed
Nobody
where you
asked you,
were.
that guy. You just took over there with your Minnesota Vikings, okay?
You didn't lose, and nobody got fired on their day
You
off.
know what I mean?
It's a
It's
good
not
week.
a bad week, you know. But
Nobody got hurt
when the
either.
Cowboys lose. I thought the Texas Longhorns would pick me up. No, they did not. Screw them. I had to take 3 of my antidepressant tablets this morning just to get out of bed. It was horrible.
All right. So
I mean,
Daniels gets hurt. Washington goes
Yeah.
on and still smokes Carolina. Now I understand it's Carolina,
Yeah.
but it's Marcus Mariota
Mhm.
who
He
went
had 2
18
tutties
for 23,
with 2 tutties.
2 touchdowns. You know, however, if it was any team other than Carolina, my expectation is that it wouldn't have been as good
No.
a showing. If you're going to wind up having your quarterback hurt,
sure.
that's the best time to have him in there. Does Daniels make it back for this week where number 1 goes up against number 2 in the pick department, and Washington and Chicago play each other?
I think he does.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, just for how good that game can be.
Is that did they flex that to Sunday night?
No. I'm trying to think of who. There's a bigger
Flex
game
schedule
next
actually
Sunday.
started yet?
Flex schedule starts in week 7.
Oh, okay.
No, they flexed. Well, they flexed us.
into Sunday night though.
No, into Sunday morning. We went from a 4 o'clock game to a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah, those you can flex all. Those you can flex all year, but I think Sunday night flexing starts in week 7. You can't flex the first 6 Sunday night games out.
Yeah,
This
well,
week-
that's what I was thinking. I didn't remember when.
Well, thank God we are at week 8.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah,
it could have
no,
been
exactly.
flexed.
Yeah, this week, technically speaking, you could, but the Cowboys and 49ers are scheduled to have Sunday night. They're not flexing that one out.
Yeah, they're not flexing
For
that.
how big those franchises are to like a football in general, they're not going to flex that game out.
You know that's going to be a bloodbath.
I know it should, like, realistically, if you're looking at the matchup itself, Bears and Commanders should be flexed into Sunday night just because the number 1 versus number 2 pick.
Are they a Monday night game though? Is it possible it's Monday night?
No, it's
Because that would have been maybe scheduled Monday night, knowing that who they picked.
yeah, I think Monday night this week. I just had it up. Monday night this week is
Giants and Steelers.
Giants and Steelers. Yeah, that game. I mean, realistically, you could flex it, but
Yeah, I'd flex that out of Monday night.
yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
But yeah, with the game being what it is on Sunday night, they're not going to take the 49ers or Cowboys off Sunday night. That game will stay.
No, for sure. I could see flexing that Monday though.
Yeah, I guess that's got to be a 4 o'clock game. If initially it was a 1 o'clock game, which probably it was, and that's why the Eagles got flexed out of 4 o'clock into the 1 o'clock slot.
Yeah, Bears in Washington is 3:25.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me. They probably flexed those 2 teams, those 4 teams. They moved us to the 1 o'clock point and put them to the 4 o'clock because it should be, like I said, that should be a Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the matchups this week, there's really not a lot of good matchups. You got Jets and Patriots. That's going to be a hell of a game.
I would have flexed that out into Monday night. I would have absolutely flexed that into Monday night.
And then you got Packers and Jags, another game that's probably not going to be pretty. Lions and Titans, that game could be interesting. Cardinals and Dolphins, another great matchup. Ravens and Browns, another shit show of a matchup. Panthers and Broncos, Raiders and Chiefs. Like, there's really not that many good matchups this week on paper.
The Texans Colts game might be pretty good.
No,
Colts offense is pathetic. Their offense is so bad.
Yeah.
and that's got to be all talent because I trust Steichen actually.
It's got to be. I mean, Anthony Richardson looks lost. So at this point, I'd go back to Joe Flacco and just ride him for a while.
So, but what my initial point of even bringing all of this stuff up is that is Chicago a good enough test to figure out if Washington's any good?
I think it's the other way around.
The Ravens were.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around for the Bears.
And even in a loss, you saw that they were a good team. Like they didn't win that game, but you liked what you saw, the way they played, the way they kept fighting. I think this is more of a litmus test for the Bears than it is for Washington.
Because if you look at the Bears' 2 losses this year, the Bears lost to the Texans, who are a solid team, and the Bears lost to who else did they lose to? They have 2 losses. Colts. They lost to the Colts.
I hope you're right, Rob.
Yeah, they lost to the Colts in week 3, who, I mean, that was a toss-up game anyways because both teams were sitting at 1-1 at that point. They lost to the Texans in week 2. Texans are a solid team, but the Bears 4 wins against the Titans, the Panthers, the Jaguars, and the Rams. The Bears really haven't beaten a team that you can really say is a playoff caliber team. Washington's the first time where if they beat Washington, you can look at the Bears and be like, okay, the Bears are on the same level as the Packers, the Commanders, the Eagles, like all these teams fighting for playoff spot. But if the Bears go and lose to Washington, then you're still looking at it like, can the Bears beat a good team, or is it going to be one of those situations where they win the games they should win and they can't find a way to beat the good teams to get into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank God they don't have a lot of good teams to play.
That's the thing, though.
Their schedule's really easy.
If the Bears win the games they should win, they're going to end up with 9 wins this season and go 9-8. Whether that gets them in or not is the question.
Yeah, 10's going to be the number.
That's the thing.
It's going to get them in, but it definitely shows improvement.
Because if you look at their division, if you look at the rest of their division, do you think the Bears are going to be favored in any of their 6 division games? Theoretically.
No.
Not
So
unless someone gets hurt.
That's what
In
I'm
fact,
saying.
in fact, even the like thinking about this because I saw this the other day that the Cowboys are only favored to win right now one game in the rest of their season against the Giants, and that's it. Like going by the percentages and stuff like that.
Sure.
Everything is in the 40 percentile, so it's almost like a pick 'em, but
Yeah.
they are at the 40%, and the other team is at the 57 or 56 or percent.
Yeah.
Because like the Bears' remaining schedule right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the Bears' remaining schedule right now after the Commanders, they have the Cardinals and Patriots in back-to-back weeks. That should be 2 wins for them right there, which would give them 6 wins if they lose this week, or 7 wins if they beat Washington. Then they have the Packers, Vikings, Lions, and 49ers for 4 straight games. They're not going to be favored in any one of those 4 games. After that, they have the Vikings, Lions, Packers, and Seahawks to end the season. So unless they can find a way to win 2 of those last set of games, Bears probably only get to 8 or 9 wins if they can't beat Washington because they're only going to be favored probably in 3 games the rest of the way. And if they beat those 3 teams that they're going to be favored in, that puts them at 7 wins. Now you got to figure out a way to get 2 wins against that schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's really going to depend on the health of the West, right? Because they play a lot of the West towards the end. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hey, since we're here at the end of the show, tell us about our guest we're going to have tomorrow. So,
I was going to tell you that off air, so we got to wait on that.
just kidding then.
There is an issue, but not an issue. But there is an issue. I'll tell you off air.
Perfect. So we may or may not have a guest tomorrow. If you're watching here on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. And of course, if you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Other than that, we will see you all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk.